We're going to get started. So, Gary, can you take over about what just happened in terms of a press release? And then we'll open it up for questions because many people have questions. So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for those who are joining, and sorry about the press release. Obviously, we're disappointed and surprised it coming. Maybe had an inkling, but didn't know it was going to be the way it was. We're disappointed because so much has been done over the last year and years for that matter. And I think it's important that we take a few steps back and then go forward so that we can put some context to some of the veracity of the statements that were made. I think it's first of all important to know that the filing by Mr. Smith, that he was chairman of our board for the last 2 years, that he was integral and enacted on the on Jim Albertelli leaving the company, because we were faced with some underperforming athletes and costs that were out of control, and he was also there when he sanctioned and signed off on our strategic plan and vision as we had going forward. And so everything that was done with his full authority and sanction. Nick left the board because he owns some companies in his Rice Park Venture Capital Fund that are in conflict. They do compete with Voxtur. And Mr. Kresge, who was running Blue Water at the time, felt very strongly that he could not talk about his business for fear that it may come back and, with competition taking place, that would impact on his business. So ultimately, it ended where Nick decided in his sole and unfettered discretion to resign. And that was that. I felt that, and we both agreed that we left on good terms and nothing would be said untoward about the company, and nothing would be said untoward about him. And that will still stay true today. This is not going to be, a character assassination on anyone today. I'll just provide you with the facts as I know them to be true. And I think it's really, really important to put some context into what I think is going on and where we are. So changes were made to the CEO a little over a year ago. And so, I, as all of you know, reluctantly took the job on as CEO, approaching my 70th birthday in July. And so it wasn't something that I was taking on with great enthusiasm and having to work 75 and 80 hours a week to get this company turned around. But I did, because I had a great debt that I felt that I needed to honor to you, the shareholders, and I needed to honor the Bank of Montreal, who are our debt holders. And so let's just talk about what's happened in the last 12 months. We have went from 525 people down to, we'll have 95 by the end of July. We're at about 100 right now. We have cut the debt from approximately 50 million down to 27 million. And that's where we're at there. And so, sorry, this phone was on, my apologies. And so we've cut the debt almost in half. We have advised all of you shareholders that it was our strong desire to look at non-strategic assets and some strategic assets where if we partnered or JV'd with them, that 1 and 1 equals 5. And so we are at a point where we sold one business that we paid approximately, I think, around $8 or $9 million worth of cash, and we sold that for $30 million. And so that was, a very good return on our investment, and it was able to cut our debt almost in half. We have a few other businesses right now where obviously I can't tell you who they are, what they're about, but we have 3 offers on the table, and with any of those offers, we'll be able to remove our debt. One is a sale, one is a joint venture, and one is kind of half and half. So, I think the bank has been working gloriously with us, and we provided them certainty that we would get this debt, under control. And, we expected something to be able to announce either at the end of this week or early next week that would basically remediate that and put us in a very, very strong position. So it was disappointing to see that today, because what I have done, and I'm certainly not exaggerating, and we've been working, most of us, because we got rid of all the executives, CFO, CEO. Once I got rid of them, some resigned. So I don't want to talk out of turn or negatively about anyone. There was a change in the senior executive ranks full-heartedly. CEO, CFO, Chief of Staff, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Legal Officer. We didn't replace them with everyone. We took existing people, and we moved them in. There was just cost reductions and savings, no added costs. And obviously, I took on the role of both chairman and CEO. So we made what I believe to be tremendous strides. We're working so hand in glove with the bank. I've been dealing with them for 25 years. They've referred to it as a Gary Yeoman loan because they had so much trust and faith. And I felt, by the end of this week, early next week, that we had things in place where we would be in a position to tell the world what we were doing and how it would look favorably, not only in the share price, but, as you all know, not having any debt would be a really, really big thing. And so we even had Mr. Smith, who had asked about how we were doing and what we were doing, even give him the opportunity to speak to the bank so that they could authenticate, how they were working with us, as partners, and and how they were appointed on our behalf to help us with some of these dispositions, and we're just the partners and working hand in glove with us, and we felt really, really good, and so we at the team felt very, very confident that in the coming days and weeks ahead that there'd be a significant uptick in our share price. That I said in no uncertain terms that Blue Water was a very dominant and a vital part of our organization, and not only because of the potential of what we paid $30 million in cash along with some shares, and quite frankly, it seems ironic that our debt is $27 million, and so if we hadn't bought that, our debt would be would be zero. But I think that only Al Qureshi knows why he chose to go down this road. I think I know, but I don't think that's for public consumption. I'll just say that I thought very highly of Al as far as his intelligence and his work ethic, and I believed wholeheartedly that business was turning around, and we've seen significant evidence of that over the last few months. We did a large deal in February, and so we had a really pretty good quarter for Blue Water. We did another large deal in I guess in May, and there's supposed to be some closings at the end of the month, and as we all know, sometimes they happen, sometimes they get delayed, but we were given certain confidence levels that this business is turning around, and as that turns, and Voxtur turns too, because as I say, it was a significant investment. It's very ingenious in everything that they did. Totally believe in the company and in the product, and I believed in Al's capabilities in running that. So I guess he's chosen in his sole and unfettered discretion that they wanted to change. and that, the business is better off, being run by him as the CEO. And I leave that to whatever opinion anyone wants. I mean, the reason that Mr. Smith left the board was because Al made a presentation on the conflicts and had, strong, there was strong, dealings between them. So for whatever
Are
reason,
you saying that Al Qureshi suggested for Nick to leave the board because of these conflicts?
I never said that. What I said was he was very concerned about conflict and made a strong presentation to the board to advise of those conflicts, and also suggested to the board that it was very difficult for him to talk to the board about his business when he felt that Nick was in competition. That's all I'll say. Those are the facts. And so, there wasn't, from our opinion, there was a certain an agreement where, he would do his thing and we would do our thing, and we both respect each other and go forward. And that's all I'll say. And so, somewhat surprised that that they've now mended the fences, and and now he's going to be the CEO, or proposed. They say about 19% of the votes, and they put together a pretty what I would call a fairly subjective, and I don't think it was a very transparent position. They didn't have all the facts, and they didn't report all the facts in the context, the way they should. And with respect to, first of all, Yeoman and Company, they built a platform called Real Property Tax Analytics. I Look About, this is before I was even part, of that group, formerly part of I Look About. I Look About didn't pay any cash for that. They worked out a royalty agreement on that. And that has continually generated probably 40 to 50% profit margins as far as revenue versus costs. Not only that, as everyone knows, there is strong representation by the province of Ontario to participate with RPTA in not only in providing that platform for all 444 municipalities, but using that platform to do pre-roll audits, and also that platform to help out in tax analysis and running and helping with the province and all the municipalities with their budget. It'll be significantly profitable for this business. I know it's been a long time coming. I'm not sure what anyone's experience are in working with the government, but you do need a lot of patience. But we have been working every week, have meetings every week. Everything is moving along. And so there's significant interest externally in the outside world in that application. The suggestions with respect to what that is worth is significant, far outpacing any debt we have right now, with a great upside for participation, as far as growth as well. So probably one of the better deals we've ever done. So to purport it in that line, because when I was helping my boys out back in the day, many years ago, whatever it was a very ingenious product. It was probably one of the best things and one of the better deals that I Look About ever did. And I'm proud that it's turned out very well for I Look About. Proud that it's now turned out very well for Voxtur. And extremely disappointed that they chose to be very subjective in how they depicted it, because they don't know. They've never taken the time to understand what the tax business is, what RPTA does. If you asked them today, they probably wouldn't know. So they just chose it because they wanted to purport to all shareholders that we're sitting there and doing nothing. We don't have a strategic plan. We don't have a vision. What I do know is that when I took over as CEO, I've told you about the massive overhaul it's done, and the bank has been with me through every step of the way with nothing but 100% support. And I'm extremely fearful that if we didn't get the support and the votes, that a possible outcome would be, and I say possible because nothing is certain and I'm not going to say untruths, but I suspect that there'd be a real problem for the bank supporting anyone else. There'd be a real problem if there's uncertainty for the bank, and what their actions would be, and it could be significantly detrimental to the shareholders. I think that Voxtur has the capabilities of being a multi-billion-dollar company. I still do. I wouldn't have put the time and the effort, and I certainly wouldn't did what I did and let you guys down if I thought that it was just, um, kind of extending the inevitable. It's not, what I wanted to do in my life at this point, but I owed it to you, and I owed it to the bank, and we've been extremely successful. And we are now facilitating deals. We said they're imminent. I was hoping that we get to announce it in the second quarter. I was hoping that we would have something that would be done next week that we announce that would have material impact. And now, with this announcement, things are up in the air. Do you think it was strategic? I'll leave that up to you. Do you think that they think that they're going to get the bank support? I'll leave that to your discretion. Do you think that, by throwing that out there, that they think that this is going to have a positive impact for shareholders, across the whole shareholder base? How could it? We are getting top value. In our view, our capital valuation for our companies today, without the material uptick that we're seeing right now in some of the new business we have, is 10 times bigger than our debt. This is not an insolvency, right? It is not, a bankruptcy. I mean, when you have capital equity in the hundreds of millions and you have debt of 27, it's preposterous. But when the bank is thrown in with, uncertainty, I worry. I worry about what's going to happen. We had it under control, have everything under control. We were moving along greatly with Blue Water. You guys can come to your own conclusions on what the motives were and why. Because when you do create chaos and the bank reacts, it doesn't do well, does it? For the overall perception of what that business is worth. On the good side, when we opened up this morning and we looked at votes that had taken place as of this morning, there was just under 90 million votes that have been placed, of which 88.5 million were in support, 99%, whatever, in support of our mandate and our platform. We talked to 4 or 5 other shareholder groups, and we believe that we got their support. I'm talking to you today, telling you where we are and what we're doing, not casting any dispersions personally on anyone or creating any kind of false or untruths. I'll deal with truth today, and I'll deal with facts. But there's nothing that was done today that was in our view in the best interest of the shareholders. Almost everyone member on the board, if they're not part of Rice Park, they're in other businesses that compete against Voxtur. How can they go on the board and compete against Voxtur? If you take a look at the person that they purported to be the chairman of the board, I will send you a court case, Marius, and let you decide who wants to see that, and they can make their own volitions as far as the character of who they want to chair the board. It was not good, at least the court case. I wasn't involved. I don't know. I'm not making any personal assertions. I'll let anyone read what they want to read. But how can people have businesses that compete against Voxtur, that they put their own money Rice Park put their own money to compete against Voxtur. And how could they be on the board and take care of the shareholders and take care of the companies? All right. How can that happen? How can Al Qureshi, and Nick Smith, who are on our board and were open to personal and very confidential information about our company, how can they, in good standing, take a position now when they have certain information about this company? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not saying that what they're doing is illegal or anything like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just, come to your own conclusions. All I know is that we fully expected Abal was cleaning up on the deals that he said he was going to deliver at the end of this quarter, that we should be at least break even, if not cash flow positive. Massive, massive turnarounds. Our company was burning close to $3.5 to $4 million a month. We've got that down to almost nothing, 500,000 a month to run corporate. It's unheard of from where it was at 2.5 million a month. There's nowhere that we haven't shaved corners in every way, shape, or form. We have busted our ass off to get there. This is not what we wanted. But when you have assets that are worth in excess of 250 million, how can our company be valued at $60 million? Now, philosophically, everyone can say, you know what? There's a lot of apathy right now in small cap real estate companies. Multiples of EBITDA that used to be 25 and 30 times are now down to 10. That's not a Voxtur, phenomenon. That's a global phenomenon. Increase in doubling of interest rates. That's not a Voxtur, failure. That's a point in time, just like everything else has a point in time. I think that it's been to our advantage to have that. I think it's been to a tremendous advantage, because everything that we're doing is more with less. And for us to be on a cash flow positive basis when everybody else is losing money, all right? Everybody else is losing money. I'm sure I'll leave it up to Mr. Smith to decide, and although he probably won't, on what businesses that he has that are small that are making money. Anyways, that doesn't matter. The point is, I'm here to talk about Voxtur and where we are and what we're doing. Disappointed, I'm saying, but again, I'm making it clear, I will not castigate the character of anyone that's involved in that. You come to your own conclusions. We're just disappointed. They were part and parcel, materially part and parcel of our strategic plan and our vision of what we wanted to do. And here we are. What kind of a world are we in now, guys? I don't know. It's disappointing. But, they're over 21 and they can, make their own vision, and they're entitled to make their own votes. And it is a democracy. And so if they feel that's what it is, that's what it is. I happen to read an opinion by Capitalist Nick, who I see is on this call here today, and I'm not sure that I disagree with the motives of that, but it's not for me to talk about.
So Gary, in terms of votes, how many votes do you need to get support?
The thing is, what I don't know, based on what they have right now, it probably is based on 19%. They probably have about 135 million. We believe we got more than that in support. We've already got 90, and we've talked to 4 or 5 groups today that said they would support it and get their votes in, that were substantive as far as shareholders go. So we're hopeful that it's going to, we're going to dwarf what they have. I mean, I think even Mr. Albertelli, and they haven't done any votes yet. So what they've said is their intentions. They haven't carried it out yet. But, Mr. Albertelli, the person that was the former CEO, is with them. So They got 3. They got 19% right now, and that's consistent with what we think they have collectively between the people that decided to go. I mean, the one individual on the board was one of the principals of Finn. They're a law. He has a law firm, but they have Finn title that competes against us, who Jim is now giving his business to instead of us. And they were the ones who bought the note from us. Remember that note that Jim that we ended up having to sell? They bought that note, and of course they got some shares too, not from us but from Jim. And so I guess that they're not happy that the share price hasn't done well. But probably not happy because they're probably not getting paid too from the note. But I don't know for sure whether they have or haven't. It's a tough situation. It's where we are. I'm confident that we're going to get enough votes, but it's done a lot of damage.
We have someone that raised their hand. Go ahead.
Hey Gary, it's Yaz. Gary, so the 19% that they referred to in the press release, do you think that includes gyms?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know for sure. To be clear, I don't know, but I think so. So I categorically don't know because no votes have been cast yet. So it's just speculation.
Okay, and as far as I know from the TSX Venture, process, coming in a week before the AGM and asking for such a drastic change is not. This is typically a special like this requires a special AGM that you have to give the TSX Venture, I think 90 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're mistaken. We were on the phone with the TSX today, and there's a certain way that they have to vote. There's a certain process they have to vote. There has to be certainty with respect to registration and all that, but they can vote. Now they can vote.
Okay.
Now, the issue is what do we do with it? And so because under TSXV you can abstain from voting, but you can't vote against. So so they can make a resolution, I guess, at the board meeting to replace the board. And so then it's up to the chair, which happens to be me, and whether I accept it, defer it. And of course, I didn't make my living in a court of law, so we're just getting a whole bunch of different opinions right now on what we do in that particular case. But I'm hoping that that we have significant more votes than what they do, and so it's all for naught.
Gary, there's some questions that are already being typed under the chat box.
Okay.
And then I submitted a questions that was submitted to me.
If you guys can read them for me, because I'm not reading them here, so you could read them, I'll answer them.
Okay. Does this all put on hold the deal you are working on to pay off the debt? I
don't know. I don't know. I mean, we're trying to get a hold of the potential purchasers. Like essentially we didn't put all our eggs in one basket. If something fell through, we want to have a fallback. And so, we're pretty strategic that way. And so it's an American holiday today, I'm told. And a couple of the people that we're dealing with, I need to talk to them and find out what this means.
If this current board stays in place after the vote, what does that mean for Blue Water's place within Voxtur?
Still stands very strong. Still believe in it very strongly. I think it's got so much potential, I think it's got wonderful people that are there and that can deliver.
What happens to Blue Water without Al?
I think that Blue Water has got a tremendous team, right? They have a tremendously capable team, right? The organization is strong. I haven't talked to anyone in the organization because, quite frankly, I think we're just trying to work our way through, the implications of what happened today. So I would assume that everyone needs jobs. I mean, what happens if you don't get a paycheck, right? And so we own Blue Water, we own the technology, we own the patents, we own everything. So, and people have put their whole lives and hearts and souls into this thing. So I see no reason why it can't continue and why it won't have tremendous success.
What about, two questions? What about BMO, and what is the view on your salary, since this was mentioned in the letter?
Well, guys, I'm 70. I've told you a long time ago, I didn't want the job and I'm happy to move. I'm trying to support this company. And I've told you, how many times have I told you that this year I had to pay out over $2 million out of my own pocket after tax money? I haven't cleared that much in the 3 years since I took over. All right. I clear about $400,000 or whatever it is, a year. I paid out $2 million this year. It's been a disaster. I've been working for free.
What about BMO?
What about BMO? I don't know. We're talking to them. I think they're deliberating. They don't do well when there's uncertainty.
Why can't Voxtur release some details around the potential options regarding the debt reduction? This will help. This will help defeat the notion showing some of the true underlying value.
I just did. I just said that we have 2 deals potentially in place that each one individually could remove the debt altogether. I mean, we're in strong position that way, right? We're working on it. We felt that we could announce one this week. I don't know if we're going to be able to still do that. The principles behind that are off today, I guess. And so I guess maybe I'll know tomorrow. I've got another deal that I think that shouldn't be affected at all. But I think ultimately we have risk, depending upon what BMO does. So I'm, listen, I've been with them a long time. They have faith in us, but, they have to do their job. I guess we'll work this thing through and figure it out because it is a good company. It would be just absolutely catastrophically so unfair if that happened to us.
Now, this is my question. I'm not reading it. The deals that you're working on, were the people that, Rise Capital Group, were they aware of the deals that you have been working on?
I really don't want to comment on that. Right? You just read between the lines. I'm not going to comment on it.
Okay. I think Nick had his hand up. Go ahead, Nick. You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, just quick. My comment is that it's obvious that the Rights Capital Group and all their partners that they've just enlisted have their own agenda to piece up the company. I mean, they don't have the shareholders' interest at hand. You know what I mean? They want to recapture Blue Water for pennies on the dollar, and they don't really have a plan, and they're hypocrites because they were all part of this. Blue Water is underperformed because of them, and that's why we're in this situation. Now, the bottom line is, if we get the votes we need, and the bank is behind us, that's the key. So everybody has to vote accordingly. It's obvious what's going on. They're trying to steal the company and piece it up for their own benefits. and they don't have the shareholders' interest at hand.
Certainly, that could happen. That's you'll have to ask them what their interests are. But
It's obvious. It's not. You'd have to be dumb, and the shareholder price has been under pressure for the last whatever long. I'm certain it's just constantly under pressure, and I'm certain that they're behind it in terms of they're dumping shares. They've got a lot of shares to create shareholder discontent, and get us against you. So it all starts now that the cockroaches are out in the open. We know what's going on. And what their agenda is. You'd have to be brain dead not to figure this one out. It's as black as white as it can be. I mean,
I have to admit, Nick, we did not see this coming in this form, in this fashion.
No, but that's fine. It's out there. As long as we get the votes, which we should, BMO is behind us, and we move forward. You know what I mean? There's plenty of catalysts for the stock. Voxtur's going to move forward and reinvent itself. And the bottom line is it'll show up in the financials, and the stock will get re-rated. We just got to get through this little hiccup, which we will, and we move forward. There's just a little uncertainty. That's all there is.
Well, it's our job, and hopefully your job, to talk to as many people out there as possibly can, to make sure that they do vote. Because we can't take anything for granted.
Of course.
Here's a question. If you win the vote, do you think you can repair your working relationship and trust with Al, or is Al's allegiance fully tied to Rice Park?
I haven't talked to Al Qureshi. This came out of left field. I had calls into him Monday, Tuesday, today. They were returned, so I guess I know now why they weren't. Surprised, disappointed. Backed him 100% all the way. So maybe he has his own reasons. You have to ask him, right? You have to ask him. I have my own thoughts, but that's my own thoughts. And I'm not going to, speak today, in any kind of negative tones with respect to any character individually. It's just, they have their own reasons. Don't agree with them. Totally disappointed. Totally think that they've put a lot of harm to the company. There's no question about it. The board. How do you preside over a board, as a board, representing shareholders when you're competing against them? I don't know. How do you vote when you're have knowledge of inside information on some of the very confidential things of the company, and with that knowledge and with that thoughts, you're able to use those votes and incorporate other individuals as part of your team to take over the company. I don't know. Well, I'm not familiar with the laws, guys. It just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, one of the people proposed is representing Jim Albertelli. He used to work for Voxtur, and to me, it's like, why would I support anybody that's connected to Jim Albertelli when he didn't pay our note in full? He started a competing AOL product. I mean, Jim Albertelli is worried about Jim Albertelli. Why would I want to vote anything tied to somebody like that? That's just one example of the people on the board.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you made your point.
And also, when he was the CEO, you know how many times he returned my phone call? Once. Once he returned my phone call. You will return my phone call at any time of the day. There was not a single time that you didn't return my phone call. So I know where my vote is. And I already casted my vote today.
It's bothersome to me on a personal front. I know you take a look at my salary, and I was making a lot more before that. But I put millions, as everyone knows, into this company out of my own pocket after tax. Millions. I paid out more than I made, you know, over the last 3 years. Walked away from, you know, the contractual bonuses that they had to me. Doing the right things because I'm absolutely certain that my investment is probably more individually than anyone I'm speaking to today. Everything I've done is in the best interest of the shareholders. Everything I've done is in the best interest of the bank to be the support. So, you know, anyone that wants to ask any questions about my loyalty or my commitment, and quite frankly, you know, to be perfectly honest with you, I never intended to be CEO. I didn't want to be CEO. I always just wanted to be on the board, provide advice and guidance, and I got thrown back into it. And quite frankly, wouldn't be here if I didn't. So, you know, my commitment has been, in my view, is unshakable. You ask if you want any doubt about that, you just talk to the Bank of Montreal. So, I don't know. I mean, listen, we're having a virtual meeting. If you know, for those that don't know and need to vote, you should be given a package. You know, with a registration number, and you just go online and you vote. But Marius, if you could, anyone that's part of this today, if you could help them out, I know that I provided you with the contact names and the phone numbers and that. So if anyone needs some help in figuring out how to vote, you know, you need that registration number.
Right.
And,
If you have your shares with your broker, then your broker, contact your broker. If you have your shares with a transfer agent, you should have received something in the mail. And if you didn't, like I didn't, because there's some mail in the U.S., you can email me and I will give you the contact information for the person at the transfer agent, and they will give you the control number and the website where you can vote. This is what I did. I don't have anything in the mail, but they gave me my control number and I was able to vote today.
some of the guys in the U.S. got their packets today. You know, you have to vote before next Wednesday because they shut down the vote 48 hours before the AGM. So Wednesday and Thursday are out, so you got to get it in on Tuesday. No later than Tuesday. But the more we get, the more we have that opportunity to go forward, and then it's up to me to convince the bank. I think that two of the purchasers, you know, should be good to go regardless. I don't think this interferes with them. They probably wouldn't be good to go if you know, if those guys take over. I don't think they would be. But I think that that's probably what the plan is, because they talk about, you know, knowing the mortgage side, but there's a good portion of our business that they don't know about. And so, I mean, and one of them, believe it or not, will be probably a business that will be bigger than all the businesses put together, you know, within the next, 12 months. So I don't know. I mean, there was some criticism with respect to the diversity of the board. We had a diverse board. We had Nick on our board. We had Grant Moon on our board. We had Christy Segudaman on our board. They're all in this space. We had good representation in Canada because we had to, because we're a Canadian company. We had myself that had very good relationships with financial institutions, capital markets, institutions. I don't know. I thought we were pretty, well-rounded board. There's, we've left some seats open that we could fill. One of the ones was I was going to bring someone on the board that had tremendous experience, and lo and behold, guess what? The last second, it was, he just disappeared on it. So, surprise, surprise, right?
Go ahead, and Nick, with your question.
Yeah, it's very important to note. Now, the Bank of Montreal was a lead investor in many of the financings, so they have, I'm assuming, millions of shares.
They got about 15 million shares.
So this is really important, because I'm sure the 15 million shares, they're going to be voting for Gary
100%.
100%. So, people out there have to know, if the bank is with us, we're with the bank. That's the bottom line. These clowns have no chance. If the Bank of Montreal votes with Gary, then you got to take your cue from there, because they hold the debt, and they know Gary and these other clowns are just in it for themselves.
First call I got this morning before I even read it was from Craig King at Bank of Montreal, who's been working closely with us, that we hired, as our advisors. And, he said, no matter what, we're with you.
That's all you need to know.
Another question I'm going to read to you. If you win the vote, which we all hope you do, given that Al might not be the person we thought, and you have clear intentions to step down as CEO, is there anyone internally you trust to replace yourself? I feel a big worry for many of us is what happens when you step down, and who we can trust to continue growing this company.
So let me just talk about that. I think I've already proven that I'm not going anywhere until it's all safe, right? That we got excellent transitions in place and it's safe. And I'm not going anywhere because I'm staying on the board as an executive role, and you're not going to lose any knowledge momentum that way. I just asked, and I've been telling anyone that wants to listen, my goal is not to work 85 hours a week at 70 years old. I don't know if anyone can understand that, or if anyone on the call has got to put those hours in, but it's, at some point in time, with 6 children and 14 grandchildren, there is other things in life. I still think that I have a hell of a lot to give to this company. I'm willing to do it. I just want to balance. All right. And so, have we conducted a search for CEOs? Yes. Have we had interviews with CEOs? Yes. Let me tell you this. The quality, first of all, we do have good quality people inside that could do it. Absolutely. 3 people that I know of that would do a hell of a job internally already, that I would have great confidence in to do this job. So I'm not worried about that. And the quality of the people that we have been interviewing has blown me away. To everyone that we talk to, they are so impressed with what we have done as a company. The diversity, the synergies, the technology, the margins, and where the growth is going to be. And not everything happens all at once, right? I bought a company, many years ago, Argus. I paid $100 million for it. The first couple of years, it just needed to get retooled. It's worth $3 billion today. And that was probably, 10 years ago. right? Like you can't get instant gratification every time you do a deal immediately. But let's just take a look at it. We're going to get more. If we wanted to move Blue Water, we get more than we paid. We only paid 30 million of cash. I can get more cash for half of it than what, you know what I mean? Like Blue Water was a great transaction. I got great hope, and I always want to have some ownership in that company for sure. Love it. Marty Aldane's A now is worth more than we paid for it. It's doing about 4 million a year of profit, right? Even at 10 multiple, which in the day when we bought it, there were 35 multiples on the other side. Even at 10 multiples is worth 25% more than we paid for it. I can just go without exception. Every one of the businesses we bought have done really well as far as valuation in this depleted marketplace. What is happening is that our share price has plunged. Our results are better than they ever have been. If you took a look at how much we were burning before and what we're doing now, we're 1,000% better than we made so many strides. And I got so much confidence in our growth as a company. The banks that have committed to us, the large institutions that have committed to us, that want ride or die with us, is amazing. It's going to be a very, very good, big, successful company. I was hoping that I was going to be around for the ride for a while, but if they get their votes, I have no choice. I guess I say I tried my best, but I'm pretty confident, guys. We're going to make it. We're going to make it, and I need your help. And just so unnecessary. This is so unnecessary. You're big shareholders, right? Everyone has their own agenda, though. You read between the lines and you come to your own conclusions. But, the bank, decided they wanted to call their loan. It's not going to be good for anybody. It's just unnecessary. So I would like to think that they'll at least give us till next Friday and see where it plays out. If I got the support that I think we have. I mean, listen, we're talking about 4 investment owners in all of Voxtur. 4. Haven't talked to anybody else. No one's, impressed with the price. And on that measure alone, that they felt that, that was my doing solely, and they wanted to change, I would understand it. And no problem if that's the will of the people. But that's, I don't think that that's the case.
But Gary, let me just ask you one thing. The biggest thing that worries people is the debt, right? And now the debt that we currently have is because of the price or the fact that we acquired Blue Water.
100%.
And Blue Water
paid 30 million of cash.
Right. And Blue Water was sold to us by Nick from Rise Capital.
Yes.
So, and Blue Water, I know it for a fact because I talked to more than one person, were promised to generate a certain income level to support that debt. And it didn't. And I am not pointing fingers that it's your fault or it's this or it's that. The fact is that it didn't generate that yet to support this debt. And now they're pointing fingers at you when they're the ones that fucking sold this company to us and the company didn't deliver what they promised.
But here's the thing, Marius, and you're going to be surprised to hear this. I love the company. It's going to do really, really well. It's ingenious. It's creative. It answers so many things. The platform is great. The diversity in getting into tokenization is great. It is going to be worth a ton of dough someday. And do you not think certain entities not know that? Like, that wasn't a mistake. It was a disappointment that it didn't do as well on the shoe. But how do you measure a business? You measure a business over a 5-year term. You don't measure it over year 1 or 2. If you get immediate gratification, good for you. But you buy a business and you build it, and you measure it over a point in time where you can actually see it mature into what you think it is. Blue water will turn into that.
Okay, so let's say they know this. They
Well,
know
of course
blue,
they know it. Of course they know
okay,
it.
so they know this, that blue water is going to be worth a lot of money. So wouldn't it make sense for them to make a lot of noise today, to discredit you, to make shareholders pissed off, so that they can somehow steal it from us before it becomes evident to everybody that this is a valuable asset?
Well, that's your words, not mine. I just can't. You have to understand. I'm not going to castigate. I'm not going to presume. I can't. I cannot. I know what I feel, but I cannot and will not do that because I can't. I just can't. I wish, I wish transparency could be there in every way, shape, or form, but I'm not going to say something that I don't know.
Okay, I think we went through all the questions. Thank you, Gary, for doing this. We've talked for about an hour. So everybody, vote how you want. If you have any questions, contact me. But I'm glad we did this. So now everybody can make their own decision.